morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the MFSA Digital Contact Session today on the 13th of April. We really look forward to hosting you today. We've got a lot of information planned for you. We are going to focus on training and the Protection of Personal Information Act. I want to welcome all of our members, our stakeholders, our service providers, and even our non-members attending this session. Just to give you an overview of our program, as you can see, Sean Starr of the Bank CETA will be presenting on the workplace skills plan and also the strategy of the Bank CETA. Then we will have two demos from our service providers. One would be Bankingly and the other one Registered Communication. And after that, we will have an interesting speaker, Paul Esselot, focusing specifically on the Protection of Personal Information Act. We have some exciting games for you to play during the session, so we look forward to spend the last hour and a half with you guys. Our sponsors this year, we really want to thank them for their support, specifically during these times and also during our digital contact session. And they are ACPAS, ALPS-I, BidMe, Bankingly, Kepler, Registered Communication, Experian, SureCard, NewPay and Delta, Micromax, Sure Systems, TransUnion, and Universal Insurance Administrators. We really want to thank you for your support. And in all of these sessions, there will be demos or presentations that they will be doing to our members. Let's look at some of our sponsors and their CEOs. Great. As you can see, we've got a couple of new service providers joining the association. And this was just an introduction to the CEOs as well. So we can start putting a face to the companies because people buy from people. Today, joining us also in the session is our staff assisting us and also a couple of our speakers. We want to start with business. So I think these digital contact sessions are really operational sessions where we want to assist our members with a couple of compliance requirements, including training and the Protection of Personal Information Act. Taking that into consideration, I want to welcome Sean Starr from the Bank CETA as our first speaker. He's skilled in developing objectives, implementing effective processes and procedures. He's experienced in the review and audit of current program delivery, conducting skills needs assessment and applying for information to the establishment of high quality training programs. Now, Sean has been working with the Bank CETA for quite a while. He does a lot of stakeholder engagement with the association. And yes, we look forward to hear his talk on specifically the workplace skills plan and how that can assist our members. So thank you for preparing and for being here today, Sean. You can start with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Leonie. I just want to confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I think from the Bank CETA, I'd like to just thank Henny and the MFSA team for always allowing us this platform to be able to share our message from the Bank CETA. Today, we're going to be touching specifically on the WSP, the Workplace Skills Plan. So I'd just like to firstly thank Henny and the team. Thank you, Leonie, you and your team for always making time for us to be on your program and to share our message with your stakeholder base. When I looked at the microfinance institutions that belong to MFSA, how many? There are quite a few that submit workplace skills plans, but there are a lot of microfinance institutions out there who do not submit the WSP. And there's nothing wrong with that because many institutions do fall beneath the threshold, the SARS threshold in order to be for the WSP to be compulsory. But I'd like for everybody to submit the WSP. And you can ask yourself the question as to why we must submit it. And it's quite simple. I need the data in order for us as Bank CETA to put programs forward into the sector. Secondly, if you do submit a workplace skills plan, you would be able to access our grant funding, our funding windows. And there are quite a lot of opportunities that you can sort of be part of at Bank CETA if you submit your workplace skills plan. So I'm going to be doing the presentation now on the workplace skills plan. And I think in the past, what I normally used to do was to tell you all the good things about it and how it works and what are the benefits around it. And you know all of that now. I want to spend the next 20 minutes with you to share with you the information on how to actually submit a workplace skills plan. If you have never submitted a workplace skills plan before, I'm going to show you today exactly how to do it. For those companies who have submitted a workplace skills plan before, your STF would probably be there with you, submit it on your behalf, but it's also nice to get a snapshot view of the actual system. So what I did in this presentation is I took snapshots. Hello?
Sorry, if everyone can just mute them. Sorry, I'm sure you can continue.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead with I took screenshots of the system in the sequence that it would be if you were a new company and you are going to be submitting a workplace skills plan. So my first slide, if you go to this bankcetamis.org.za, this is your landing page. You go onto your Chrome search engine, you type in www.bankcetamis.org.za, and this is going to be the screen that's going to greet you. The module that you click on is the Bank CETA MIS WSP module, and I've got an arrow on it there, so you click on that, and it will open then up to this screen here. So this is a screen where the STF, your company STF or whoever submits a WSP on your behalf would be able to either log in, or if you're a new company, that is where you're going to click on the register as an STF. So if you click on that register as an STF, that the system generates an email back to BankSeater. It comes to someone in the office here. It comes to Mabel. Mabel will then register you as an STF, a very quick process. She'll allocate you also your non-levy paying number, your IN number, and then email it back to you. That process happens quite quickly. We are in WSP season at the moment. It closes at the end of this month. So these emails will get attended to immediately once it comes through. So once you receive, you click on register as an STF, we get the email, we register you, the company, we allocate an IN number back to you, we email it back to you, and then you would be able to access the system. So when you get your contact, your login details, you then use your username and password that's given to you, you log in, and it will open up this screen. So this screen is your first step, knowing now then that you are then registered with BankSeater as a non-levy paying company. If you take that IN number that Mabel in the email sends back to you, that IN number you put into that search block there and you press search, your company will come up there. Once your company comes up there, you then click on open on this side here. I don't know if you can see it on this side here. And if you click open, it's going to open up your workplace skills plan. So you'd be able to then, this is your first time that you're going to be interacting with your WSP. You can see then it's got the home, the WSP submissions, my profile, logout, the tabs on the top there. But the one that's important on this screen here is you've logged in, you're now on the system, you click here to create your plan. Right. Once you click on here, it takes you to this screen. So this screen here is, it's going to be basically a summary of your company's data. There'll be your company name where I've put in dummy. You're going to get an IN number. You just make sure it is the active period that we're in now, and then you click on open. Once you click on open, it's going to open up this screen here. So the workplace skills plan for small companies is what we call a WSS, which is a workplace skills survey. The skills survey, we made it simpler for the smaller institutions so that it doesn't be that big document that the WSPs of, for example, the big banks do. So it will be these four pages: the employee profile, the hard to fill vacancies, the skills gap, the annual training report, and lastly, there's only 2 documents that you need to upload, which is the authorization form and the bank details form. We'll touch on that later on. So once you have all of this here, you can see now then that there's no green ticks next to any of them. This means that you're just starting the process here. And then you go on and you start then populating. So your next screen that you're going to be interacting with would be this screen here, which is your workforce profile. So if there are 5 employees in the company, you must fill in the details of each of your 5 employees. If you've got 10 employees, you fill in the details of all 10 your employees. To fill in each employee's details, you click add. Add then would then go to my next screenshot page here, which is, you'll see now that you put in the ID number, the birth date, and you can follow these here. All the menus have drop-down options. Once you fill in that employee's details, you then click there on save. Once you click on save, you then go back to this one here where it says add again. And you're going to click between these 2, add and save, until you've done all your employees. Once you've done all your employees, you click close. And most importantly is mark section complete. That mark section complete is you are now saying for that data, that's all the data that you have as the company, and you'll then save it as mark section complete. It will give it a green tick. That mark section complete tab is extremely important. Without that, it's not going to save that data that you have now just populated about your workforce. So very important to remember, and it's going to be with all the 4 forms. Right, once you've completed that, you've now saved all your employee data. The next one is the hard to fill vacancies. Now, why is this important is we as bank sector needs to know from you what are your hard to fill vacancies. You can see that there's drop-down menus for the different occupations, the provinces. If you're just in Gauteng, or if you also have people outside of Gauteng, there's the drop-down options and the reason why that occupation was hard to fill. And then you've got your drop-down menu options there. Once you fill in this form here, it will again go save, close, and again mark section complete. Once you click on the mark section complete, you then have given us that information that we need on what are the hard to fill vacancies that you experience in your company. The second one there would be the annual training report. So the annual training report there, you can see there is what training you've done. So it's also got the drop-down menus, what's your major occupations, your professionals, your clerical workers, etc., etc. How many people attended training in the last year? How many people were employed the total number of employed beneficiaries, total number of disabled beneficiaries, and what was your expenditure on training? And that can be an estimated amount. It's not like we're going to request of you to submit all the supporting documents, but it needs to be pretty close. So this will give us a snapshot view as to what you are doing in your company for your training, right? If you've done no training as well, leave it there as no training. I want you in the system so that you can benefit from our grant training, and it will give you the opportunity to do training in your company. Again, there, click close and save. And lastly, mark section complete. Mark section complete is extremely important because it saves all your data that you have then just populated. Then we come to this. Like I said earlier on, there are only two documents that you need to upload. The first one is the authorization form. So this authorization form template is there for you already. I've put a big arrow there so you can see it there. If you click on download the authorization template, you save it to your machine, to your laptop, or to whatever machine you're using. You print it out, and then you fill in all the details, and the CEO or the managing director of the company signs at the bottom, not the STF. It must be the CEO or managing director of the company that signs that authorization letter. If the STF signs it, it's going to be a decline. I'm not going to accept it because that authorization form is deemed by law that you are now saying that the information that you put in there, the owner of the company confirms that it's correct. So it's an extremely important form. So once that form is then filled in, signed off by the relevant MD or CEO, and then if you do have a training committee in the organization, the head of the training committee will sign that authorization form as well. And then you need to upload that form. So you upload it here, authorization letter, browse, you find it on your machine, you add it in there, you then close, save, and then it's going to come out here. So once that authorization letter is then uploaded into the system, you'll see this here changes to blue. And once it changes to blue, it means then that the authorization form has been uploaded. That authorization letter is extremely important. Don't take a Word document, write on a piece of paper and just upload it on there. Do it on that template with the correct signatures. That document is very, very important. Right. And then you click and save there. So it will then take you to, you've now uploaded your authorization form. You're 99% done with your WSP submission. You can then see the next screen it takes you to, it says there's a green tick by employee profile. That means that you click mark section complete. The same with article vacancies, same with the skills gap, same with your training report, and the authorization letter is there. And then you are 99% done with your WSP submission. All you need to do now is your bank details. To get to your bank details, you click on home. Once it opens up this screen here, you click on home. It's then going to take you to your bank details. When you click on your bank details there, it's going to open up this screen here. You then need to add in your bank details. To add in your bank details, once you click on bank details, it opens up this screen. And you are then going to say change at the bottom there, because it's going to be populated with some just dummy figures in there. You say change, and then you put in which bank you're with, your account number, etc., and you then need to upload some proof of the banking details. Most, I think it's now system generated on with most banks, that you get a stamped letter that you can upload onto the browse, submit file, close, save, mark section complete, and then you have uploaded your banking details. You're then done with your submission of your workplace skills plan. But it then opens up onto the final page, which is this one here. And by the time it gets here, you know that you've submitted all the info. If you left out any of the information in any of those forms and the population drop downs, and it won't open up this screen. This is the final screen where it says everything has been submitted. You click there, I have completed the whole WSP and the HR, and I would like to submit, and you click submit. Once you click submit, it's going to open up this page here, and you'll see there submitted status is green. Yes, you know that your WSP has been submitted. It's as simple as that. I think that in the past, we've done these presentations on the WSP, but it's the first time we're actually showing you on the system how it actually works, and it's actually quite easy to do. Once you submitted your WSP through to before the 30th of April, obviously, you then have access to the different funding windows. At the moment, the SME funding window is open. It opened on the 1st of April. It closes again on the 14th of May. If you submitted a WSP, you can apply for training here. And this can be any training. This could be any training that would strengthen your business. You can do management training. You can do front of house training. You can do POPIA, you can do regulatory training. You apply to Bank Cedar in this funding window. All the documents are there on our website. I'm going to send all the documents through to Leonie and her team as well, and she'll share it with you. So it will be, you fill in your application form, say what training you're going to do, you choose a service provider that is accredited for that course that you want to do. That accreditation letter must be with your application, and it's only for small employers that have less than 50 employees. It's capped at 50,000 Rand per application, but you can submit more than one application. So if you want to do an application just for your call center front of house people, you want to do another application for your middle managers, you want to do another application for regulatory training, for POPIA Act, for NCR Act, or whatever the case may be, it's capped at 50,000 Rand per application, but you are entitled to submit more than one application. So once you submitted your WSP, you can then access funding through the SME funding window for your employees within your organization. Most importantly, the WSP process closes on the 30th of April 2021. So don't leave it till the 30th of April. It's legislated in the Skills Development Act that it's 30th of April. We cannot change that. If you do need help, Mabel is there. There's a contact details, mabel@bankcedar.org.za. There's a cell phone number because we are working remotely most of the time due to COVID. So there's a cell number. You're more than welcome to contact me as well. And we would be able to assist you to upload all your documents, etc. If for any reason you have system challenges, whatever the case may be, you can't meet the 30th of April deadline, I can give you an extension for only 1 month. But that application for an extension must be a formal application that goes through to our CEO for approval. So I would suggest that you don't do it on the 30th of April because, there's challenges around that. So that's basically how easy it is to submit a workplace skills plan. Once you have submitted your workplace skills plan, you can access funding through the SME funding window and even to our other funding windows that are open as well. All our funding windows are open as we speak. There's the pivotal grant funding window. There's quite a number of other funding windows that you can also access funding if you submit this workplace skills plan. Thank you very much. I try to keep it as short and sweet as what I can. If there are any questions, I don't know, Leonie, if you want to allow for some questions to take place, but you're more than welcome to ask some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sean. It was very, very informative. Yes, I definitely want to open up the floor to our members. If there is any specific questions, specifically with regards to the workplace skills plan, please put them in the chat box and we will be able to answer you. I think this is the first time that we really saw a practical example of how to submit this workplace skills plan. It's sometimes very daunting because we don't know how to do it. We don't know what the system looks like, but now we know what the system looks like, you know exactly how to do it. So I think it makes the process a lot easier. Sean, what did you say was the cutoff date? Was it the 31st of April?
The 30th of April.
30th of April, okay.
30th of April.
If the members want an extension, they can apply for an extension, but you should do that beforehand.
Yeah, you know, the 30th of April is legislated, so it could fall on a Sunday, it could fall on any day. For example, if you send me a request for extension late in the evening on the 30th, I must get it signed by the CEO and etc. It becomes difficult. So if you are going to need an extension, let us know before the 30th of April. But generally, you can see how easy this is. You go onto BankSetter MIS, you register yourself. Everything is in drop-down boxes. This presentation I'll share with you as well, Leonie. You can share it and it will give people the exact sequence of what the system actually looks like as you click and save in the system, so you can share that with your members as well.
Great, yes, and this is also recorded, so if you want to show this to the person submitting your workplace skills plan, or if you want to show people in your, from your staff, you can always just ask the recording from the association, or you can find it on our social media pages. Okay, a question: if I'm the SDF and the MD for the authorization letter, it has always been accepted before, what am I to do?
Excuse me, Leonie, just repeat that.
If I'm the SDF and the MD for the authorization letter, it has always been accepted before, what am I to do?
Exactly as before. It's exactly the same process. So you'd find with smaller institutions like what this sector is, it's going to be the MD that is the SDF. So it is the MD that has the login details. You go in, you log it on, you act as the SDF. It doesn't have to be a registered SDF with a qualification as an SDF in order to submit this document. So it will be exactly the same as before. It would be the MD that fills in, populates it, signs it off, everything.
Okay, perfect, great, thank you so much. Yes, and everyone is asking, will the presentation be available? Yes, we will send you the presentation. It is also recorded, so we're going to put it on our Facebook page and we will email it to you as well. So you can just click on it and get the information. Is there any additional questions? I can't see anything from my side. Okay, thank you very much, Sean. We really do appreciate the presentation and it makes it a lot clearer. Let's move on to the next item of the day, and that is Bankingly. That's one of our service providers, and we are going to watch an introduction video about Bankingly, a new service provider of the association.
In this world, everything is fast. And so are we. We know that in a digital world, all financial institutions are looking to build their presence. That is why they need a platform that ensures their security, provides the fastest time to market, is intuitive and easy to use, is multi-channel, mobile, tablet, and web, reduces operating costs, and last but not least, supports financial inclusion. And all of that and more is what we do. In this new digital era, Bankingly is your best ally to position your company in this new world. Bankingly invites you to enjoy a multi-channel platform and bring world-class electronic channels to your customers. With Bankingly, your customers will have the ability to view and manage their products and transactions, transfer and schedule future transfers, make credit card and bill payments, access information about loans, payments, and expirations, get quotes from different currencies. The platform can be personalized to your branding. Through Bankingly smartphone apps, you will have access to your clients 24 hours, 7 days a week through direct messages, promotions notifications, and special benefits. And the most important thing, they will have the ability to interact with you in their preferred way at any time, from any place. Are you ready to start the Bankingly experience? Visit us at bankingly.com.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, so Bankingly is a new service provider of the association, and they requested a live demo with our members in order to show them what their product does. So I want to welcome them on the stage. Welcome, Veronica, and you're welcome to do your presentation. Maybe just unmute yourself, yes. I see you are still muted, Veronica. Yeah, you're on. Great.
Okay, great. Thank you. I was trying to unmute, but it said the host wasn't allowing me. Thank you so much, Leonie. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you everybody for being here today. We are very honored as Bankingly to have the opportunity to present our products to you today. So what we're going to do is really a very brief overview of our company, as well as a brief demo with the time that we have. We do have some time constraints, so I'm just going to try and fit everything in within that time. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and I hope everybody can hear me. Can everybody see my screen, I hope?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So Bankingly, as we've been introduced, is a digital banking software provider. We've been in the business for over 25 years under our mother company called InfoCorp. Just over 5 years ago, there was a decision made to supply exactly what InfoCorp does on a larger scale to smaller sized businesses. So InfoCorp looks after the large organizations. They're still in existence. They're still doing business. Bankingly is focused predominantly on small to medium businesses. So in terms of what we do and what we offer a SaaS platform solution. And within that solution, we've got online banking as well as mobile banking. For today's presentation, we're going to be focused predominantly on mobile banking, and specifically for the loans and the loan app, if you will, because I believe the majority of our audience today is mainly focused on that. In saying that, we do offer our platform to any type of financial institution, as you'll see as we go along. We also have our admin portal. So the idea really with Bankingly is that we want institutions to be able to supply our services or their clients with pretty much everything without a dependence or additional cost with things like IT and things like that. So that's how we have an admin portal. So the admin portal enables institutions to make different changes like password changes, add banners, communicate with your customers, all within the scope of the institution without requiring any further input from somebody on the outside. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the next slide. So in terms of what we do, we've really put the customer at the forefront and also obviously the industry. So I've just highlighted 5 of the key aspects of our product. So with cyber threats and customer security in terms of data and information and financing, we've really thought about things like multi-factor authentication. So for customers logging into their digital banking system or platform, we've thought about multi-factor authentication, which allows customers not only to just input their username and password, but they're also able to input things like PINs, maybe additional security questions. Even at the point of transactions, you can input additional layers so that you're just making sure that everything is secure in that. We've also looked at scalability. So scalability in terms of growing organically with your customers. So as your customers are growing, we'd like to think that our system is built for that growth, but not only in terms of the system itself. As I mentioned, we supply different products within our platform. So loans, credit cards, debit cards, all sorts of solutions which you see in the next slide. So we are really geared towards providing the customer with whatever they need at the point that they need it. We've also thought about things like digital collections. So things like loans and credit cards. Again, when a customer owes you some money, you want to ask for that money in the most non-invasive way possible. So that ties in with our communication channel, which I'll show you as we go along, in setting reminders, sending messages to customers so that they're able to make their bill payments in time. We also supply business banking, so things like bulk payments and bulk transfers is something that we have a huge focus on. And then in terms of security, ours is a SaaS platform. It's hosted on Microsoft Azure. As we all know, Microsoft needs an introduction. They're ISO certified, leading security provider in the world. So we are really ensuring that all transactions are secure for the customer. Over and above the security that Microsoft Azure provides, Bankingly also provides its own security in terms of things like monitoring. So we're monitoring any potential hackers or scammers that are trying to get to a customer's information before the customer is even aware that something like this has been going on. As I mentioned, we've been in the business for just over 25 years. In that 25 years, we've never been hacked. In fact, we normally encourage our customers to do ethical hacking, and so far nobody has been successful. So that's quite a good record to have there on our side. So in terms of the products that we offer, as I mentioned, we do credit cards, fixed term income, payroll, batch payments, and I've just highlighted loans specifically for the market today. We do bill payments, transfers, digital wallets, and things like this. Communication, this is something that we're very focused on, and as I go through to the demo, I'll show you guys what I mean. So things like segmented advertising. So for example, you want to inform your customers of new products that have come out. Say, for example, there's a new loan that has very competitive interest rates. You want your customers to be aware of that. You're able to do that segmented advertising on the platform because it's already built in. Things like segmented messages. As I mentioned, you can customize that to customers. Maybe they're defaulting, or maybe they've forgotten to pay, whatever the case may be. You can do a segmented messaging to target those customers specifically when they log into their online banking. We also, as I mentioned, do the collection, so news alerts, notifications. We've also got location-based branches and deals information, and as well as contact information. So all of that you will see when I go to the demo section of the presentation. So in terms of what we offer, we have a world-class solution, as I mentioned. Currently, we have over 1 million users that are currently benefiting from our technology. We also have pay-per-reel usage. So what this really means is that we only charge you as the financial institution for one unique login per month for the customer. So say, for example, you have a customer that did 20 transactions in the month. We're only really going to charge you for the first transaction in that month. So that also incentivizes us to kind of make the products better so that customers are incentivized to use the product continuously. So it matters to us more when the customer is using the products every month as opposed to the volume per month, if you will. We've also got future-proof. Future-proof meaning that our product is a SaaS model. It is a monthly subscription, and the subscription that you pay on a monthly basis covers you for any updates, enhancements, security patches, any continuous developments that we do on the platform. You're already covered for that, so you're not going to have to pay over and above what you're paying on a monthly basis for these enhancements. As I mentioned already, we host it on Microsoft Azure just to make sure and guarantee that there's safety in terms of data management. Again, we offer security to make sure that our customers are agile and they're banking digitally in a secure way. We also have an unbeatable time to market. So we we like to position ourselves as being able to implement as quick as 8 to 12 weeks so that your customers are obviously able to benefit from the platform much quicker. We offer digital consulting. I mentioned at the beginning our admin portal and our user engagement team. So this is where our user engagement team really focuses on. So once the client signs up with us, we don't just leave you to go on your merry little way. With the admin portal, our user engagement team literally holds your hand and helps you with things like digital collections, marketing, cross-sales, training, information updates, data analysis. So they're really there as a fallback to just provide you with as much information as possible to make sure that you're maximizing on the benefits of the platform. I'm just gonna go ahead and just share my screen here, as I'd like to show you the app. Yeah, there we go. So this is what the app looks like. So as you can see, it's clean, it's simple to use, it's native to the mobile, so everything is compact. There's no need to scroll. It's native to it. It's not a web system that we are now trying to fit onto the mobile app, if you will. Okay, so as you can see here, it says Bankingly. The colors say Bankingly. Everything says Bankingly. It's important for me to note that this is a white label solution. So everything that you see here can be customized. So as we log in, you'll see that I've customized it to MFSA just on account of they're the ones doing the presentation and the event today. So everything can be customized to what the financial institution's colors, their fonts, and all of these lovely things. Before I log in, I just wanna highlight a few things at the bottom. So you'll see that there's a banner that keeps going up and down. So this is very generic. It's like going into, and I'm hesitating to mention any single bank, but it's like going to a bank's landing page. So these banners, which you are able to, again, edit on your own, you are able to then put in any information that you need. Maybe there's a new product that you want your customers to be made aware of. You're able to make the changes here as you will. And then if I go to news, again, you're able to give the customers any new information that you need them to know about. I'm just gonna go over to find us. We've got geolocalization, which is pretty great. So what I did for the purposes of this demo, I just put in MFSA's location there. If I click on the, just give me a second while it's loading. If I click on the pin, it shows me their address. I'm able to share this across different platforms, social media platforms, or if I click on this here, which I won't, it takes you directly to your Google Maps or whatever you use for your GPS, and then it'll then take you to the location. We've also got a benefits section. As you guys may be aware, lately a lot of banks are doing a lot of collaborations with retail stores like Checkers, Engine, Discount, Clicks. So you're able to do something similar with your own customers. For the purposes of this, I've just done one for Woolworths, and then just tell your customers what benefits are available if they bank with you or use certain benefits that you supply. Then of course, we've got the contact us section as well. I'm just gonna go ahead and go to the home section. So we've thought about security and things like this. For the app, I've enabled my touch ID again.
I would have to stop you there. I think the information is wonderful, and I think the way that you can customize the app is also great. This is an introduction section for our members. I think if they've got any additional questions, please post your contact details. It is on the screen now, and they can contact you directly so that you can give them a little bit more information.
Perfect. Perfect. Right. Okay. Right. So I've got the information on here.
Yes.
I've got the information on here. We'll post it as well on the chats. Thank you so much, everybody.
Great. Thank you so much, Veronica. We really do appreciate the presentation and the new and exciting product and service providers that the MFSA is launching for our members. So up next in the program, we are going to do something a little bit lighter. We're going to do a pop quiz with our members. So how it's going to work is we are going to post some questions, and then we are going to give you a couple of seconds, and the one that has the correct answer first, they have to post it in the chat box. They have to choose an option. It's only one option, and you will win a 250 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher. So let's start with the first question. The average person does what 13 times a day? Okay, and the answer is, let me just, the answer is C, laugh. So Sunay, can you give us a winner? Let's see, we definitely do have a winner. Everyone said B and A and yawning. Looks like there's a lot of yawning going on here. So the winner for this session is Natasha. Natasha, congratulations. You're winning a 250 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher. The next question is... And the question is A, John Logibet. Sunay, who is the winner for the second question? The second winner is Zonique. Congratulations, Zonique. You are getting a 250 Rand voucher. Great. And sorry, guys, Madiki, you were actually the first person to answer the first question correctly. So congratulations on your winning there. The third question: where was Gordon Ramsay born? We definitely do have a winner. The answer is C, Glasgow. And the winner for the third question, there are really a lot of guys that got this one correct. But the winner is, let's see. Well, he was definitely not born in the kitchen. Sunay, can you give me the winner of the first question, please? It's Isabel. Congratulations, it's Isabel. We will send you your 250 Rand voucher. Now we are going to the fourth question. That it's almost so difficult. Dirk Badenhorst, you are our winner for our fourth questions. Congratulations. Then our last question. I thought what music was this and what was this? That is Madeleine Engelbrecht. It is C, a Walkman. Congratulations, everyone. Please be in contact with Sunay. Her details are admin@MFSA so that she can send you your Take-A-Lot voucher. Thank you so much for participating. And also post your email addresses of all of the winners so we can contact you. Great. So next up, we have a presentation from Registered Communication. They are the leader in business-to-business and B2C electronic messaging. Their flagship products are registered email, registered SMSs, which are both electronic alternatives to the traditional paper-based registered post. So they are going to share their product with you guys today, and we welcome them on stage. Welcome. I think you are still on mute, yes, but the host has to unmute you. Hi. So now if you can just unmute him. Great, Norman is on. Welcome, Norman.
Thank you very much, Leonie, and thank you, everybody. Thank you for giving us a small window here to demonstrate our product. So the beauty about live demos is that really anything could happen in the session. It's kind of like working with animals in a circus. You're not sure what's going to happen, but we are going to try and take the next 8 to 10 minutes to demonstrate our registered email and registered SMS products with you. The session normally takes a little bit longer, but I'm going to rush through it. And you'll see how easy it is to send out a registered email or registered SMS. This is really, really pertinent to every one of you who needs to send out a registered letter on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. If you're still sending out your registered letters via paper, you'll know the challenges that you experience with delivery and with costs and so on. And we're very proud to say that we're the first company that's managed to get legal acceptance that you can send these registered letters electronically. So what I'm going to do is, with a bit of luck, share the screen that I have, and in front of you, you should see an email that I've started typing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send a registered email to myself and send a registered SMS again to myself, but you'll be able to follow me through that process. And most importantly, I'm going to show you the output, the track and trace report that gets generated. Again, for all of you who make use of the paper-based alternative, start your stopwatch about now, and you can measure for yourselves the difference in timing, how long it takes you to send a registered letter via paper versus how long we're going to take to complete this whole process electronically. On the screen in front of you, I've just started typing up a normal email. So I'm hoping that you can see I've just put my private email address as the recipient. I've typed in a subject line and I've typed in a letter. This is obviously all free text as I can type along. I'm going to add an attachment to this. I'm just going to pick an attachment because typically when you're sending a registered email to a debtor or a customer, there are attachments involved, an invoice, a statement, an LOD, whatever it might be. And then the only thing I'm going to do in addition to the normal email process is we give you a CC address that you need to add to that email. So this you really don't have to leave your desk in order to complete this process. And I'm going to click send. So I've got my email, my recipient, the CC address. I've got a subject line. I've typed up the body of the message, and I've added an attachment to that message, and I'm going to click send. While that is happening, I'm going to send a registered SMS as well. All of our customers get access to what we call our customer portal, which does a few things. One, it lets you send your registered SMS messages. But two, as you'll see just now, it also acts as a document repository for all the track and trace reports, the history of your communications. We keep them in a safe, secure environment. To send a registered SMS, I'm going to add my mobile number here. send it. I'm going to add in my name. I've typed up an SMS message. For those of you who use bulk SMSs, you'll know that the size limitations of a normal SMS is about 160 characters. We allow up to 1,000 characters, 1,200 characters in a registered SMS, which just gives you the ability to type a beefier message. It gives you more real estate to get a message across. And if you're sending a letter like a 129 letter or an 8610 or an 883, etc., you may need some real estate in order to send a decent message. What a lot of our customers do is they make use of links within these SMSs. And if I open up this link in a web page or on a phone, you'll see that you have the ability to send a document as an attachment to an SMS. So this document has the ability to be branded by yourself and in color and so on and so forth. But as I said, it gives you the ability to send a document as an attachment via an SMS channel. And I'm going to click send now. This window that you see above the SMS, what we do, which is one of the very valuable benefits of going electronic, is that for both emails and SMSs, registered emails, registered SMSs, we make sure that the recipient gets the track and trace report as well. Now, what does that mean? In the majority of your environments, you're trying to collect money. And I know I'm stereotyping you a little bit and generalizing, but if you're trying to collect money, you don't want to litigate. You litigate because you have to. And the best way to collect money is to get the data to respond to you. And what we feel is by sending the track and trace reports to the debtor as well, be it by a registered email or registered SMS, the debtor knows that you know that the debtor has got the letter and they've got nowhere to hide. So all of our customers find a massive increase in the number of responses that they get from their debtors by using registered email and registered SMS channels. For the registered SMS, I'm now going to click send. In my sent items, you see on the menu on the left, in my sent items, this is now an example of the page where you can see the history of what's been sent, what's been received, and so on. This line over here, you'll see this is the email that I sent to myself, and this top line here is the SMS that is being sent. So if I click on this little icon on the right, this certificate, what happens is I can download the track and trace report. So in the registered email world, I've composed the email message, I've sent the email message, the message has been delivered, and within a few minutes, I already have that track and trace report available. And this is what the track and trace report looks like. Everything needs to have a unique ID number. This is the equivalent of the barcode number that you get on your paper-based alternative. In the middle, we have all the sender and recipient's contact details. We have the delivery dates and times. One of the other massive benefits about the electronic channels is that we can witness the contents of the message. What I mean by that is in the paper world, once you take a letter and you put it into your envelope and you seal the envelope, nobody really knows what's inside that envelope. In the digital world, we go ahead and we witness what the message actually said. So the debtor can never start with funnies to say, oh, you sent me a letter, but it didn't contain the LOD or didn't contain the invoice. Because within the track and trace report, we confirm what was actually sent. So this is in the gray block, this is the contents, the body of my email. As I scroll further down, this is the attachment letter that was sent. And as I scroll down even further, this is the technical metadata that for various reasons we get from the South African Post Office because we have to. But this is all the technical mumbo jumbo about how this letter left my environment, hopped around the world to the recipient and was successfully delivered right down to the recipient's mailbox. For the registered SMS, the track and trace report looks exactly the same. I know that we are really under time pressure, so I'm going to stop right there, Leonie. But there, in a few minutes, just to summarize, if I may, in a few minutes, I've typed up a registered email, I've typed up a registered SMS, I've sent both of them, and I've got both track and trace reports back. So from a business perspective, starting almost immediately, I can kick on with my next business processes.
Perfect. And thank you so much, Norman. And you guys are also a new service provider with the association. So if any of our members are interested, Sunay will be posting their details so that you can contact them as well. I think it's a great product, and for more information, please feel free to contact Norman. Thank you so much, Norman. Thank you for sharing the information with our members.
Thank you, Leonie. Thank you, everyone.
Right. So up next, we have our speaker. His name is Paul Esselard, and he will be presenting specifically with regards to the Protection of Personal Information Act. Paul Esselard is an attorney at law. He completed his LLM in Electronic Law and Commercial Law in 2003. He's written a book entitled Understanding the Protection of Personal Information Act. And then also Paul developed his own attorney company in 2011 called Esselard Attorneys. So Paul, we are really looking forward to your presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and we really hope that you can provide our members with an update of what they can expect. Great. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Leonie. Let me begin by asking if you guys can hear me as well.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
There are a huge number of participants here, and I know that you've probably been given a lot about the Protection of Personal Information Act, and I've got all of, let's say, 20 minutes or so to speak to you about it. So there's no chance that I can explain what the Protection of Personal Information Act is about. It's way too quick. I'm rather going to take a look and almost do violence to the concept of the Protection of Personal Information Act and just give you some logical pointers. What I often find when I go into a business is the business has got a level of inertia, and that's because no one understands exactly what to do or how to go about doing it, and they end up doing nothing. And that's the worst possible outcome. I think if most of you are starting your Protection of Personal Information Act compliance project now, you're going to miss the deadline, which is the 1st of July 2021. And I don't think that necessarily needs to be seen as a crisis. You won't be alone. There'll be loads of people, particularly government entities, that are going to miss the deadline, and they're going to sort of the sound of it whooshing by is certainly going to be happening with a huge number of companies in South Africa. We're just new to the data protection game, and it's not going to be unusual to be non-compliant with POPIA by the time the 1st of July comes, which is the due date. One thing to say about that is that it's possible to apply for an exemption, to ask the information regulator for it not to apply to you or your particular industry. And if you want to do that, you should do that now. Okay, so the first, I'm just going to go and start sharing my screen and see if I can find what I've done. There we go. So what we're going to look at is just some practical things to make sure you've done before as a start, and this ought to be for many of you fairly obvious. The first question is, who's your information officer? And since all of you are private companies, to the best of my knowledge, that would be the CEO by default. Now, there was a little bit of debate, including in our book originally, as to whether it was possible to have an information officer who is not your CEO. It's complicated as hell if you look through the Protection of Personal Information Act, and then you look at the Promotion of Access to Information Act, and they work together, and then there's a guidance note from the information regulator. But essentially what it comes down to is we recently, and that's from the 1st of April, got a direction from the information regulator that effectively it's possible to change your information officer from being your CEO to being someone other than your CEO. And the reason that you care about that is because you don't want your CEO's personal information to be provided on the POPIA manual and to everyone else, so that instead of doing whatever it is that they're meant to be doing, which is overseeing the company and making a profit, they've got to answer questions from the information regulator about data protection. It's not efficient. It's not what the CEO is meant to be there for. And so it makes a whole lot of sense for the information officer to be someone other than the CEO. In order to do that, you need to designate a new information officer, and there's a form on the information regulator's website that will allow you to do that. So that's the first point that needs to be considered. Okay. The second thing is to decide whether you need deputy information officers. If your organization is less than, let's say, 20 people, you probably don't. But as you start getting bigger and bigger, having deputy information officers makes a whole lot more sense. In general, deputy information officers can do everything the information officer can do, but it can be restricted further down. Now, the reason I'm focusing on information officers as the first thing that you need to do is because there's a great deal of pressure being put by the information regulator on information officers. They want a responsible person at the organization that they're going to speak to, and that person is the information officer. Then they've also come up with a guideline about what the information officers should do and how to go about implementing POPIA. Everything basically comes back to the information officer. So getting that person to know that they're the information officer and know what they're meant to do is obviously the first step towards accountability, which is one of the principles of the Protection of Personal Information Act. Now, accountability is one of those. It's actually a one-liner in the actual act, but it can be a more tricky question than it sounds, because accountability basically means that the people who in your organization know what they meant to do and are responsible for doing it. And often that isn't happening at all. You can often have a group of companies where the one company in the group thinks that the other company in the group is doing it, and the other company in the group thinks that the one company is doing it, and then everyone gets rushing around like headless chickens. So getting a clear understanding of who's responsible for what has got to be the start of any POPIA project. Okay, I put down here, and you can hear I'm going quick because 20 minutes is incredibly short for the protection. I put down data stewards. It is a common misconception within organizations that all you need is an information officer, and he or she must make it all happen and no one else needs to do anything. That's unbelievably unfair on the information officer, because it essentially puts a huge amount of work and effort onto someone who might not even know what's happening in your marketing division, or what's happening in your call center division, or what's happening in your operations divisions. They don't see it all the time. So having someone who's the go-to person for each business section is also a good idea. And often those people are called data stewards. And so appointing them is also useful. And then selecting a project manager. I had a very big project with a large multinational. And at the end of we did an impact assessment and a risk assessment. And interestingly, the biggest risk that we found at the time was that there was no project manager. If you're big enough, not having a project manager is a guarantee to a failure of a POPIA program. I see them all the time. Failing in POPIA is easy. In fact, it's the norm. So being able to succeed in POPIA is a serious challenge, and it needs to be seen as a journey rather than an end date. You're not going to be done by the 1st of July. You're going to continue going, and there is no end date. It's literally a journey. So this is a sea change for all businesses, and particularly in your space. And that sea change will never go back. You'll never go back to not doing data protection. You'll never go back to not having to worry about this problem. It is a change in the business environment that will never be undone. So it's quite a big deal. So that's the first thing, appoint your information officer. Then this is, once again, what are some of the things we did. First of all, we divided the sections of personal information that we have into customer data, employee data, and supplier data. As a general rule, customer data, personal information is more sensitive or more important. Employee personal information is the second down the priority list. And supplier personal information, which is typically companies supplying you with services and goods, tends to be the least important in terms of personal information. It's worth knowing that in South Africa, because we decided to do this, companies have personal information, and almost nowhere else in the world do they consider companies to have personal information. So South Africa went left and everyone else went right. And we said, fine, that's just something we're going to do. As a general rule, I tend to deprioritize company personal information. I don't see it as very important. And if you're just starting your POPIA project at this point, you should probably ignore company personal information because you've got bigger problems. Then we further divided into all information in terms of incoming, internally generated, and outgoing. Now, most companies that I speak to will deal with the first bullet point and the third bullet point, but most of them don't even realize that the second bullet point exists. Okay, that's a problem. So if you are going to grant me a loan, you will have various information you get in the application form. That's incoming personal information. You will then go to a credit bureau and ask information about Paul, at which point you'll have got it from a third party that's giving you additional information. Okay, you sent information to the credit bureau that's outgoing, and you received information from the credit bureau that's incoming again, although it's not incoming from the data subject, it's incoming from someone else. Okay, and then you make an internal decision about whether to grant a loan or not. Now, that internal decision is still personal information because it's about Paul. It's making the decision to grant a loan to Paul. Okay, and no one else has that. That the reason for that decision is an internally generated personal information that you've got, and you've also got to deal with that because that still remains personal information, although you never got it from anyone else. Okay, and it's that second part that I don't want everyone to miss because they generally do miss it. So you divide all your information as I've just described it over there because it tends to be convenient to do it that way. You look at your customer application forms, you see what you're getting over there, and then you separate it out into those sections. Then what you generally do is you start with your customer application forms, and this idea is just meant to give you a way of going forward where you're starting to become a little bit more intelligent about how to deal with data protection. So you get your forms, as many as you can, and you say, okay, here I've got my personal information, I've got my forms, and I'm going to take a look at every single field in that form and see what they are. Okay. Then I'm going to create an Excel spreadsheet for argument's sake. You can also do this by means of software. There's a POPI software program called POPI 365, which you can use, but you don't need to. You could use an Excel spreadsheet. And what you do is you take a look at that form and you set out in your own words every single purpose that you're going to use that form for. So for example, that's going to be for complying with the National Credit Act, in order to provide the data subject with a loan, in order to assess whether the information is correct relating to the information that's been provided, and cross-checking, the purpose of being able to cross-check with the credit bureau regulation. And those are just 3 of probably something like 20 or 30 purposes that you'd have for a single application form. So you on the top level of your Excel spreadsheet in the column, you write down in your own words what that purpose is, and you go for the 20 or 30 columns as you go. Then underneath each purpose, you set down each PI field individually. First name, that's one field. Surname, that's another field. ID number, that's another one. A unique identifier for this particular organization, let's call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's unique to Paul, and you're going to put that down. It's also personal information, even though it's internally generated, because it all relates back to Paul. Okay. As soon as you have something that relates back to a person, there you go. And then you say, looking at all the fields that you've got, can I achieve the purpose that I put in the top of the column if I use less personal information? And if you can, delete that personal information under there and keep on going. And then you've got to check the purpose is acceptable. Now, this is just the beginning of where you've got to go, but this is a great start to being able to take a look at all your application forms, because what is most critical is being able to start at where the purpose is and whether the purpose is acceptable. If you've got the purpose, everything runs downstream from the purpose. whether you can keep it, whether you can use it, whether you can use it for further reasons, whether you need consent, whether you can delete it, when you need to quarantine it, what kind of everything runs downstream of purpose. Okay, so the purpose could not be more important, and that's why you've got to focus on that first, because everything else breaks if you don't know the answer to that. Okay, let's go. I've said map your PI flow. You don't need to use a piece of software for that. You can go ahead and just do it on a piece of paper. But you need to know where the personal information goes within the organization, and also where the personal information goes outside of the organization. And ideally, once you've done my Excel spreadsheet and you know all those personal information fields, you should be able to say not only that it goes to the credit bureau, but which personal information fields go to the credit bureau, and be able to map that. So now you've got an idea of where it goes and what you're doing with it. Okay. One of the major things that needs to happen within your organization is the ability to quarantine your personal information. And there's several reasons why you would need to quarantine your personal information. In other words, take it out of your in-use system. The first is that the data subject, in your case, the person who's receiving the loan as a guest, would say, I don't want you to use my personal information, or you used it in an incorrect way. I want you to quarantine it. And that right is contained in POPIA, and you're supposed to be able to quarantine it. Okay, that's the first point. The second point is you realize that this particular individual is a politically connected person, and you don't want it to be in the general population. You want to restrict it for whatever reason, so that it's not easily available to your general employees, that it might leak. That's one of several reasons why you might want to quarantine it. The third is that there really was a security breach. There was a security, I call it leak here, but it could be a security breach, and you need to be able to retain that information, but make it harder to break into. And so you've decided to put it in a special place with additional security measures while you figure out what happened and how your security breach occurred. And then the last reason that you don't need to quarantine it, and this is not well understood, it's in section 14, is that once you've exhausted all the reasons to use the personal information, you typically have one last remaining purpose, and that purpose is to keep the personal information for the purposes of proof, because you're worried that the data subject, Paul in this case, is going to sue you. Now, there's a deadline for being able to keep that. That typically is 3 years when it comes to our Prescription Act, but it's more complicated than that when it comes to prescription. And so you'd have to look at that. And once it's been quarantined for that period, then you can hopefully normally safely delete it. Except that the problem is that in theory, what you're meant to do is keep the personal information for as long as you have a purpose to use it. And the problem is that most organizations don't realize that they've named 20 purposes, but they're in fact 30, and they made a mistake. They forgot to mention 10 of them, okay? So what you need to do is create a self-correcting loop, which says as soon as you get rid of all the 20 purposes, you take it out of general circulation, you put it into the quarantine, and you wait until someone whines about not being able to get the personal information. And then you say, okay, that's no problem. I'll give it back to you. But you've got to tell me why. You've got to tell me what you're going to use it for. And we've got to figure out whether we missed one of the 10 purposes. Then you figure out you did miss one of the 10 purposes. You now have 21 purposes, and you deal with that appropriately. And the point about this is not expecting your POPIA project to be perfect. It won't be. In fact, it'll be flawed for sure. So what you're looking to do is build into the system a self-correcting loop so that you can gradually, over time, which is why this is a journey, get to the stage where as problems arise, you haven't deleted all the information you actually do need, but you have made it harder to get in order to intentionally create friction within your organization to force the reasons that you use personal information to come out. It is a common misconception within organizations, and I see this all the time in South Africa. It drives me literally nuts that people seem to say that we always process personal information with consent. What rubbish. You don't, okay? There's a whole host of personal information where you don't get consent, And the National Credit Act is a good example of where someone will come to you, will ask you for a loan, and as soon as they ask you for a loan, you've got various duties if you're going to accept their application with what you're doing there. And although there is the consent of them coming to you in the first place, asking for personal information in various ways is contained in the Act and the regulations, and you can safely rely on that as opposed to the idea of consent. Okay, so when you went ahead and you sent the information to the credit bureau, that easily can be said to be a legislative requirement that is placed on you. Okay, and to go further from that, so the reason mainly that we try to avoid using consent, although consent typically comes up as the first thing that you're going to deal with when you deal with the Protection of Personal Information Act. In other words, when you look at each of the sections, the first thing it says is you can get consent. So that's deceptive, because you shouldn't be trying for consent. You should be trying everything but consent until the only option that's left to you is consent. At that point, you look at whether you really need it, and if you really need it for whatever reason, then you ask for consent. And the key point is, and this is the other thing that doesn't happen in South Africa, when you ask for consent, they must be able to say no. Okay? There must be a way of saying no that's okay. So if you have, I consent to the cookies on this website, and there's a little accept button, that's it, you're done. That's not consent. It's not voluntary. There's no other option. Okay, so those consents are useless. They're not consent. They look like consent, they smell like consent, but they're not consent. Okay, consent must be voluntary. You must be able to say no. The second thing is you must be able to be specific about the consent. What is the consent to? Okay, is it consent to sending the information to the credit bureau? That's an actual specific consent. Then you also need to make it informed. If we send this request to the credit bureau and you've done requests like this 20 or 30 times, that could impact on your credit worthiness score within the credit bureau. Now you're informed, okay? So those aspects of consent must be present for you to get proper consent, okay? There's a great deal of misinformation about what consent really is. And you might find that you have been relying on consent for the last 3 years, and your consents are not worth the paper they're written on, or whatever, however you use them electronically. You must, if you're going to rely on your consent, make sure it's a true consent. Okay. Ask the experts. I've been dealing with this since 2007. I still learn things. It is a remarkably complex area of law. It's changing all the time. You'll see that Google gets unstuck all the time. Facebook gets unstuck, and there's serious fines that go along with this. It's a matter of public knowledge, and I know that Experian is on this, but Experian was one of the credit bureaus in Europe that has been looking at what they've been doing relating to direct marketing. This is all well known, and it's a big stakes issue. So don't think that data protection has reached a level of maturity worldwide. It absolutely hasn't. South Africa is highly immature. We are a good 30 years behind the European Union that started in 1995. Australia started in 1988. We're even behind Mauritius that started in 2006. So we're late to a game where we should have been well more mature about data protection and having implemented it for many years now. And the only positive you can say about that is that there are other countries and other places to look. So if you're unsure about what to do, can you look for local precedent? You absolutely can't. There's no precedent. We haven't implemented it at all, but you can look elsewhere. And be careful about a couple of things elsewhere. The first is that they don't think juristic personal information has, I'm talking about Europe, and in most countries, they don't think companies and trusts have personal information. We do. And they have different notification requirements when you collect directly and not directly. And we've got a law relating to that you've got to try and collect directly from data subjects. And the third is that as regards internationally, they can allow, and once again, this is Europe, personal information of children down as far as 13 years old. And we don't do that. We're 18 years old. So those are some of the the three high-level issues that you need to know of as a difference between what we do and what Europe does. But other than that, it's very useful to be able to look at international examples in your industry and see what they've done. It's generally a great starting point if you're not sure where to go. So that is a hellishly quick look through the Protection of Personal Information Act and some practical moves that you can take to avoid the inertia, which is actually the biggest danger. Not knowing what to do or what to start and simply doing nothing because you're not sure or never know where to go. That's the biggest problem with any POPI project. Leonie, I've rushed through it. How am I doing?
Great, thank you so much, Paul. I think this is very informative. I am going to open it up to our members, and I would really, guys, if you've got any questions, please post it in the chat box so that Paul can be able to answer your questions. Like Paul said, you know, in a half an hour, it's almost impossible to give you all of the information, but at least it is some form of a guideline. So I think the Protection of Personal Information Act is almost daunting to our members. And like you say, some of us choose to do nothing because we don't know where to start. So let's put it to our members. Have you got any questions to Paul? Okay, I'm seeing nothing in the chat boxes, and that's not necessarily a problem. I think, you know, sometimes we feel exposed because it is something new. So what we're going to do is, okay, there's a question. Does the US have juristic persons?
Okay, the United States does have juristic persons, but it also has a really spastic way of looking at data protection, which is to allow each individual state to make their own laws relating to privacy and data protection. And that means that you've got 51 different ways of looking at data protection and privacy, which is a mess. The US itself has recognized that it should have been a federal idea, but it hasn't gone that far. And if you're looking for data protection in terms of what you should and shouldn't do, the US is definitely not where you want to look. So we've had two cases in Europe where there were, the first was the the Safe Harbor Treaty, and thereafter the Privacy Shield Treaty, both of which were from Europe to the United States saying, please respect our personal information. In both cases, the European Court of Justice said the treaty that you came up with to make sure that we respected your information, personal information from Europe is not good enough. Try again. They then made the Privacy Shield. Max Schrems, then he's a German guy who's very active, then went back to the European Court of Justice and said, okay, and they said, once again, that's not good enough. Do it again. So the Europe really struggles. And if you're looking for a poster child for protecting data protection, don't go anywhere near the United States. It's not where you should be looking.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
By the way, sorry, juristic persons is companies, you know, so do they respect personal information, juristic persons in the US? No, that's not a worry of theirs either. It's just South Africa, and there's one other odd country that I can't recall. I think it's in South America, but it's very much against the norm.
Okay, I think the next question, there's a couple of questions coming through now.
I can see them there, Leonie. Can I just go through them because we're going to be quick?
Good.
Okay. Prior authorization, there are three reasons that you're going to have prior authorization. I've been looking at them for some of my clients, and the first thing that tends to happen is that everyone takes a look at the amalgamation of data that you've got from several different data sources and says, do I need prior authorization? And it's impossible to answer without taking a look at your situation. The key that you need to look at a high level is if you need prior authorization, you need to ask now, okay? And the reason for that is if you ask now, before the 1st of July, you can carry on using the information as you have been while the information regulator figures it out. So there's a transitory period where it allows you to continue provided you made that application before the July kicks in. So don't wait too long to ask for prior authorization. Whether you do or you don't is entirely dependent on it. But one of the things that people seem to do is they seem to think that criminal behavior, which is different from criminal convictions, they're different. You need to be careful about that. It's another common misunderstanding. Criminal Criminal behavior is something that you need to get prior authorization for, and that's only if you do it on behalf of third parties. So if I am Woolworths, I want to find out whether Paul, who's my employee, has a criminal conviction, then I ask for that and I get it back. That's not that, and I do now know whether Paul does or does not have a criminal conviction and criminal behavior of some sort. I'm not doing that on behalf of third parties. I'm doing it for myself. That's not required. Prior authorization is not needed in that case. If you're going to be a reseller of credit bureau type of information where you take all the information from disparate sources and put it together, yes, you probably need prior authorization, unless you party to a code of conduct, and the credit bureaus do have a code of conduct. It's not been accredited to the best of my knowledge, but that's a way to getting past prior authorization. Prior authorization is a big deal, but the takeout that you need to get from that is make sure that you're right, that you need prior authorization, because if you're wrong, don't ask for it. And secondly, if you're going to do it, that's one of the things you need to do now. Is there any step-by-step? We covered all. There's a lot of detail. It is incredibly difficult, Bertus, to in 20 minutes to have this. This is a genuinely complicated thing to deal with, and I've given you a high-level view of just where to begin. Taking it further is just not something you can do in 20 minutes. I would suggest that you just begin by asking someone who would be able to assist you a little bit further, because it's not really fair to expect it in 20 minutes. What happens in cases where you have received PI consent authorization a year or two ago? That consent is fine. You don't need to necessarily get it again unless the consent is wrong. Okay, so if you take a look at your consent from 2 years ago and you say, okay, it wasn't informed, then it's not consent. Okay, you got to do it again. If you take a look and you didn't give them the option to say no, it was impossible to say no, then it wasn't consent. You got to look at it again. So poor habits of keeping POPI compliance. First and foremost, what you need to be able to do is have a responsible person, which is the information regulator, information officer, and that person needs to know that everything starts with them. They need to feel a bit nervous. And so taking a look at that is key. Also, a risk assessment is also key. If you're going to take a look and say, based on what I was showing you at the start of this, I was effectively doing a priority list of the risks you've got going and saying what customer information is more risky than employee information, focus on it first. So what you'll generally do is you'll start creating a list of the risks that you identify, and they'll keep on coming, even the whole way through. And what you've got to do is you've got to keep on prioritizing them according to a risk matrix. And if you don't know what that, you'll have to look it up. And that risk matrix will inform how you move from time to time, because there's no use spending a whole lot of time and money on a low risk item when you should have been focusing on a bigger risk thing. Can we expect visits by compliance officers? In theory, it's possible. In practice, the information regulator doesn't have enough money, and they'll struggle to being able to go there too quickly. They're going to be relatively immature, and they'll have teething problems. Can they have compliance visits? Yes, they could. They probably won't. They'll probably be asking you for information for you to provide it to them. Generally speaking, the mistake you will make is by answering the request for information and giving them information that's wrong. You'll say, we got this personal information for this purpose, and it turns out that you were wrong. And then you get hung by your own answer, if that makes sense. So you end up almost crucifying yourself. Your reply to the information regulator is absolutely key. Be careful about that. I think we managed to get through all of them incredibly quickly there, Leonie.
Yes, I think there is a lot of questions that still came through. You are more than welcome to email them to us. I also put in Paul's details once again. You can contact Paul directly, or you can send him an email if you need assistance. But the MFSA will also be, we will be exploring this matter, and we will be providing you with updates and with guidance. I think you said a very crucial thing at the end, specifically with regards to the compliance inspectors and the information that you send them and what you tell them. I think it's exactly the same situation that we have with our national credit regulator. So I think there's a lot of synergies that is there. But thank you so much for your presentation, Paul. It was very, very insightful. We really do appreciate your time. You may be getting some calls from our members to ask for more information. And as I stated, please feel free to contact Paul for more information. Right. Yes, so up next, we just want to show you once again that we are doing a survey. Sunay is going to post the link in the chat box. So we are just asking all of our members to please complete the survey so that we can actually build on the sessions for the next one. The next session would be compliance, and we are looking forward to that. So please click on the link and fill in the survey. We want to once again thank our dedicated sponsors for making these sessions possible, and also for sponsoring some of our speakers. We really do appreciate it. Our sponsors are ACFAS, ALPS-I, BidMe, Bankingly, Kepler, Registered Communication, Experience, SureCard, NewPay Delta, Micromax Share Systems, TransUnion, and Universal Insurance. So up next, we're going to look at a short video of the CEO's introductions. Great, thank you so much. Our next session will be on the 12th of May, and we will be focusing on compliance legislation and regulation. On the 8th of June, we will be focusing on technology, 14th of July on consumer centricity, followed by advocacy, and then once again, a compliance legislation and regulation update. I think compliance is very important, and we want to keep our members informed. I want to thank all of our members for attending this session. Once again, I think the information that was shared was great. You will be able to download this recording. We will send you the link, and you will also find it on our Facebook page. Thank you so much, everyone, and we hope you have a lovely day.